Good afternoon, Michael Malice here. Let that be our welcome for the next hour. We have with us a very special guest, Sydney Watson, internet commentator, co-host of You Are Here. That's how I got to meet you. I was the first guest on the show, and Australian native. People can follow you on Twitter at Sydney L. Watson, and on YouTube.
Sydney, it was just Sydney Watson.
It's Sydney Watson.
Very creative.
I really go. So ahead. Sorry.
It's just very creative. It's just my name.
Well, I hate it. I got this advice from Ralph Sutton, who was the head of Gas Digital, who's a great person. And he made the point, and this is for young people out there, see if you can get the same name across different platforms. Because if you have it on Instagram or on Twitter, it gets confusing for people. And also many of these platforms allow you to change your username. So if you have that kind of whatever it's called across the board, it's a good marketing technique. Sid, you're from the accent people might not realize you're from Australia. How long have you been in the States?
Yeah, so I moved at the middle of 2019, and it is actually funny that you bring that up because even now I get really mixed reviews on the accent. It's either, oh, you sound really Aussie, or where are you from? Are you Irish? I get Irish a lot.
Oh,
I just sound remotely Irish.
What an insult. Good Lord.
You think I'm from that part of the prison colony? You joker. No way. It's bad.
So, but what made you pack up your bags and move to the States?
Yeah, well, effectively, Australia is a little bit of a prison. I know that people joke about that a lot, but the general Aussie mentality is not something that I really identify with too much these days. And that's not to say that Aussies aren't wonderful people. They are, and they're so fun, and the food is great, and they're awesome. But yeah, by and large, trying to work in the political space and having people be very politically ambivalent, there was no correlation there for me. And I was like, I just can't do this. So I packed up and I left because I figured at least if I'm going to try to promote freedom and these values and the value system with which I was brought up, maybe the place to do that is America, because Aussies they just don't care. They're just not politically motivated.
But this is something that's confusing to me because I've had Lauren Southern on a couple of months ago, who I'm sure you know, and I was very confused how like Canada is not a forgiving, welcoming climate, right? So Canada was populated by like rugged, the brawny guy, and now you have Justin Trudeau, who's like the epitome of what people on the internet would call a soy boy, is the head of that country, just recently reelected. Australia. You think of Australia, you think of badasses, like, guys pounding down like 80 Fosters a night. They're going out with their boomerangs. They're killing, the wallabies and crocodile Dundee. But seriously, when you think of Australian dudes, you think of tough guys. Like you don't think of like the Brooklyn hipsters that is kind of my milieu. Is that a incorrect stereotype?
No, I mean, this is the problem, right? And this is why I even struggle whenever people ask me about what's going on back home. It's kind of incongruent the way that Aussies actually are. The men are very masculine. And I always say that Australian men are the most attractive probably in the world as far as my estimation goes. Maybe the Scandinavians are good looking too. But Aussies they're like these rough and tumble, big tough guys. And it's kind of strange because when it comes to politics and when it comes to what the government's doing, they're kind of just like, oh, she'll be right. So no, what you're saying is correct. In some capacity, at least for people who don't live in the major cities. And so then it's very weird to sort of think about how they're not motivated to fix the country in the same way that a lot of us here in the US are, I suppose. Maybe that's not fair, but I don't know. It's very odd to me. And, I was actually thinking about something that you said on You Are Here when we first met, when you were talking about the police and we were talking about Australia. And I disagreed with you about, we were having a gun discussion and whatnot. And I've realized in the past couple of months, I think you may have been correct with what you were saying. And I think that goes to show that there has been a shift in the way that Aussies operate and even the way that I'm observing them operate.
Well, can you explain what you meant and how your opinion changed?
Well, so I effectively, I know that one of your main stances is that cops are not super great, even the good ones. And at the time, I was sort of in defense of that. And it's not to say that I think all cops are bad. I'm still not on that wavelength, but watching the way that Aussie cops have operated has been very distressing for me, because especially a lot of these Aussie cops are by and large these like big rough men that are blah, blah, blah. It's not like the, very overweight ones that you see running around here. A lot of cops are these like, tattooed, very stoic, I suppose in some capacity, maybe chauvinistic kind of men. And you made this point, and I thought, no, Michael, you're so wrong. And then now I'm thinking, really, if you are part of the police force today, there's something kind of inherently wrong with that in some capacity. And again, it's not because I think all cops are evil or anything like that. I'm not on that page as yet. But it's been very strange watching what Australia's done, and I've come to sort of realize that your perspective wasn't entirely wrong.
You know, it's funny, like this happens to me somewhat frequently, and people, given my kind of dickhead personality and persona, expect me to be like, I told you so. And I never am, because I always say that I wish I was wrong.
Yeah.
You know, like I wish that I was on this issue, like talk out of my ass. This is something that can be salvaged. And I think, to your point, it is, you know, I'm not going to disagree that we need to have an orderly society, that crime needs to be prevented, that, you know, that there are people who are worse than the cops in a society. That's not, you know, there's people who do things to children, you know, just people use children as drug mules. I mean, there's just things that are completely much worse than what the 99.999% of cops will ever do. But at the same time, if you are at home and you're watching what they're doing, especially in places like Australia, I saw cases where they're like beating up women and taking their kids from them because the kids weren't masked. If you look at this on TV and you're like, oh, this is what I want to do. There's a real big divide between your mind and your concept of what's appropriate and mine.
Yeah, no, 100%. And watching Aussie cops, you know, stomp on people's faces, or, you know, basically a bunch of them jumping on people and trying to force masks on their face. There's one photo that I'm sure you've seen it of cops holding a man and trying to force a mask on him. That's gone everywhere. I mean, just like watching these things and thinking, how is this the country that I was born in? Because the other thing too is, and this has actually been so challenging for me, is realizing that the country I grew up in, and I'm not even that old, I'm still in my 20s, versus, you know, what it is now, they're totally different. They're on opposite ends of the field. And that's so challenging, because I have never had an issue with cops, not once in my life. And that's potentially because I'm a female. Maybe they just leave us alone a lot more. But I've never had an issue with cops. I never understood the hatred towards cops in Australia. But if I was there, I can tell you now, Michael, I think I would have mouthed off to the wrong one and probably got myself in a world of trouble. Because they just, there's no leniency anymore.
Yeah, right. And the other thing is, it would make more sense to me if you were holding down someone and forcing them to be vaccinated like that, then rather than a mask. Like, literally, what is that preventing? If that person doesn't have COVID, they can't spread COVID. And if that person did have COVID, now you're in close physical proximity to them. This is just Kafkaesque and nonsensical. Let me ask you this. I mean, this is kind of a broader personal question, but I always wonder about this, because people often ask me, you know, if New York went away, where would you move? And I thought the question was ridiculous, and apparently the answer was Austin. But one of my concerns with why I never wanted to leave New York was because all my friends were there. And it was going to be so hard for me to just anywhere else in the world just pack up, like just to form a new network, which is so important, especially for those of us who do things like we do, where you're kind of independent and you don't kind of have that kind of support. Was it tough for you? Did you know people in the States?
Yeah, I had probably maybe 2 or 3 friends that I actually knew here in the US, especially moving to DC. I think I had, you know, the entirety of 2 friends. But I will say I am a little bit of a lone wolf. So I've always had a small circle.
I love the accent. You're a loon wolf.
Lone wolf. Oh my God.
Okay.
I was trying to explain to someone the other day that I had this situation happen not long ago, where someone kept saying the word Paw Patrol to me, and I was like, like a dad troll, like a papa troll. And it turned out they were trying to say the name of that show, Paw Patrol. And for just the longest time, I was like, what is this dad troll thing you keep telling me about? Like, what is this? By the end of it, I was like, oh no, it's Paw Patrol, like an animal. Accents are ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. No, so I've always been a bit of a lone wolf. Is that better? Did I say that right? It's better. So I've always had like a really small circle. And believe it or not, actually, because my mom's from Ohio, I have a really big American side, but don't have a ton to do with them, just because a lot of them have kind of gone a bit liberally and they've gone off to do their own things. So it's actually not that challenging to move countries as people seem to make it out to be, because you do end up making friends, but you have to force yourself to do that.
Well, what advice would you give people? Because this is something, I think a lot of people lost a lot of friends, both because of Trump and because of COVID and lockdowns and things like that. Like, how would you tell people, especially young people, to move, to make friends though? It's not as easy as people think.
Yes. I mean, as an adult, I think that there are a lot more constraints than you would perhaps have as a kid. It's like, do you like dinosaurs? I like dinosaurs. Let's be best friends. Whereas now it's like, oh, you disagree on this one nuanced thing that, we could actually discuss and maybe come to a sense of understanding. It's like, no, go away and die in a fire. Well, I think for me, it was actually putting myself into situations where I could meet like-minded people. And I've never had an issue using, say, at the time when I had Facebook before they banned me, I never had an issue using those groups on Facebook to talk to people and then go, hey, are we from the same area? Let's potentially meet up. I also befriended a couple people who were much more outgoing than I am. And so then they would introduce me to their friends. And then from there, I would make more friends. So I would say that if you're an introvert like I am, I would always say to people, make friends with at least one extrovert, make them adopt you, and then have them introduce you to other people, because where there's smoke, there's fire, but in the positive way. If somebody thinks similarly to you and you connect enough, surely their extended group of friends you will connect with as well. But just simple stuff, like if you're a Christian, go to church, I don't know, go to the gym. I mean, I've met some really, really cool girls at the gym just because we're training in the same spot. Can I borrow that dumbbell? Yep, cool. And then you end up chatting and you become friends. So I just think going to places where you will find people who think similarly is a good start.
I think that extrovert is like the best advice I've ever heard, because let them do all the work. Because for me, it's an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's such a good idea.
Right. And they adopt you too. I don't know if you have an extrovert who's adopted you, but they're like, oh, come on, my little introverted friend, let me do all the things. And you're like, great. And you just kind of go along for the ride. In fact, that's how dating in my life works. I don't know if it's the same thing for you, but I feel like an extrovert follows me around for long enough until I just accept that I'm in a relationship with them.
I love that we still have Fume as a sponsor. Quitting smoking is the best thing you could do for your health, and Fume can help you get there. Fume is a natural inhaler designed for a better, safer, and natural way to quit cigarettes. No smoke, no vape, no nicotine replacement. What it replaces is that hand-to-mouth habit of smoking, which is that ritual, which is so hard for so many people to break. Fume is made of 100% Canadian maple. They have these cores infused with plant oils that are studied to curb cravings. They have flavors like peppermint. Conquer has minty notes to stimulate menthol cigarettes. Lemon Berry Bliss for sweet experience. Their flavors are all 100% natural, no chemicals, no flavors, and absolutely no nicotine. Guys, smoking's expensive. At the very least, you're going to be saving yourself a lot of money. Quitting is tough, but Fume can really help. And they've got thousands of 5-star reviews from smokers who tried everything else, and this works. Whether you're a smoker or an ex-smoker who still struggles with cravings, Fume is the perfect tool for you. It's time to create positive habits and quit naturally Fume. And I'm glad to be a part of helping to make it easier. You're going to save on cigarettes you aren't buying. You're not going to have to buy breath mints. Your teeth won't be as yellow when you save on your initial purchase of Fume. If you head to breathefume.com/malice, BREATHEFUM.com/malice, use promo code malice, you get 10% off your order. That's 10% off your entire order when you head to BREATHEFUM.com/malice and use code malice. Guys, I love Crowd Health and working with them, because if you're uninsured right now, I get it. Even with insurance, healthcare costs are out of control. Nothing is stopping insurance companies and hospitals from continuing to raise their prices, and there's enormous incentive for them to do so. But thanks to Crowd Health, you don't have to choose between rolling the dice or paying through the nose for some peace of mind. Crowd Health isn't health insurance, and that's how it works. Because with insurance, you pay huge premiums, but you get huge deductibles, which means on top of the thousands you pay to keep your plan, you're paying thousands more before insurance kicks in 1 penny. 1 in 6 claims are denied by healthcare.gov plans, which is why so many people take their chance without insurance. Crowd Health gives you a new way to pay for healthcare, because there's no doctor networks, there's no huge premiums or no high deductibles, and there's no surprises. So Crowd Health puts community back in community healthcare and gives its members access to high quality care for up to 60% less in the process. You pay one low monthly total, you fund your account, and you get access to the Crowd Health community, which is less than $200 a month for most people. 100% of your contribution directly funds and reduces the healthcare cost of the community. How do they lower your costs? They make payment to doctors and members as quickly as possible, and they negotiate on the community's behalf when unexpected bills arise, which totally reverses the vicious incentives that got the healthcare system into this mess in the first place. Are you ready for a better way to pay for healthcare? Join the crowd. Right now, you can get your first 6 months for just $99 a month. That's almost 50% off normal price at a lot less than a high deductible healthcare plan. Just go to joincrowdhealth.com and use promo code WELCOME at sign up. That's joincrowdhealth.com, promo code WELCOME. Crowd Health is not health insurance. It's a totally different way of paying for healthcare. Terms and conditions may apply. Let's get back to the show. What I've had to do, because Austin's kind of weird, there's not like a go-to place.
Yeah.
So I've turned my like living room into like a hangout spot. And I throw these events when people come through town. I just did one for Jake Shields, who was the UFC fighter when he was on Rogan. And it's like, all right, like this way I don't even have to leave my house. Let everyone come here and make friends with me. And like, I want to get close as possible to being like an invalid and I like just crapping in my chair and never having to leave it. Like that's hashtag goals for me.
It gets like that though, because the more that you spend time with yourself, I don't know if you're like this, and I'd love to know. You're the sort of person, the sort of introvert that when you have a me day, you want another me day, and then the me days turn into like a me week, and then the me week turns into like a me month, and then you haven't seen anybody, and everyone's like, "Have you died?" And you're like, "No, I'm just not leaving my house for extended, prolonged periods, except to perhaps go to the shop and get some bananas or whatever it is." Do you do that, or is that?
No, I do. I don't do that. Like because I'm like that's a trap. So like I force myself to see people. But the thing with Austin is everyone's coming through here. So there's always someone hitting me up that I know. So so you're even more of an introvert than me in the sense that I'm very good one-on-one, but you're a real like I need to be by myself kind of introvert. But I have a few friends where we'll just literally just spend the whole day together, just eating Dairy Queen and just watching like the most horrible television. If you don't know who MC Deborah is, and I'm sure no one listening or watching this does know, look her up on YouTube and you're gonna have lots of fun.
MC Deborah.
Yeah.
Noted. All right.
Yeah. So but you're living in like Dallas.
Yeah.
It seems like I no disrespect to anyone there, but I was there when I did the show. It seems like Dallas is very like concrete and buildings and not much of a scene.
It's very flat. Yes.
Yeah.
So I think one of the major drawbacks of the DFW area is aesthetically, it's not very pretty, which is I feel like that's such a bloody millennial thing to say, but it's actually a little distressing how ugly the terrain is. It does actually remind me in some capacity of Australia. Australia is very flat, although where I'm from in Victoria is just beautiful. There's just trees and the gum trees and animals everywhere. It's very nice. But have you been to East Texas yet? Like, have you driven down through like maybe
I don't know how to drive. We're going to the Dr. Pepper Museum in Waco next week.
Okay, well, you're sort of not in the right direction, but Waco's not great. I'll say that much. But if you go to East Texas, it's very lovely, and I think that's from my understanding quite similar to Austin, because Austin's full of trees and hills and things.
Oh, very much so. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have any of that.
We're gonna go to Waco, and we're gonna go where they killed all those kids. We're gonna do the Ouija board and get some good lotto tips.
Oh my God.
What the kids, they've got the information. They might as well give them to us, right? That thing's going to be flying all over the board.
Oh my God.
It's going to be so great.
There's some, you know what? There's Christians watching your show right now. Like, please don't mess with the Ouija. Don't do the Ouija. Oh my God. That's so funny.
The Christians watching the show, I assure you, are praying for my soul on a nightly basis. And God's like, no, can't help you. That's
so funny. That's so funny. Are you scared of that sort of thing though? Because I always feel like I love watching anything to do with the supernatural because I find it so interesting. But the concept of messing with any of that, I'm like, I'm not sure how I feel.
I'm not scared because my grandfather was someone who was like very, very lucky, by which I mean just like fortuitous things happen to him all the time. Yeah. And I am one of those people. Like I'll give you an example. There was this comic book publisher in the 50s called EC Comics. They did Tales from the Crypt, Vault of Horror, those, and they got banned when comics got too controversial. And they were reprinting them. This is when I was like 22 and very broke. And there was like a set that was like $100. And I'm like, do I really want to spend $100 on this? And then I just like found $100 on the street, like that kind of thing. So stuff like that happens to me somewhat regularly, which either means I'm cursed or I've sold my soul. And in exchange, I'm getting these stupid comic books that I'm going to read once and have on my shelf. So you know what? Maybe this is not going to work out for me in the long run, but at least I'll enjoy it in the short term.
It could do. Maybe you'll open a portal to another dimension and end up with, some super powerful genie being coming and being your best friend and granting you wishes. You never know.
Actually, like my best friend here in Austin is kind of a demon, so I think it's gonna go in the and as I tell them to their face on a regular basis, you're a shaman. So it actually it might not. Let's talk a little bit more about the show because by the way, I love the Blaze. I love everyone there. I get along royally with everyone. Was it weird? You've had a lot of controversial guests on the show. I'm thinking of people like Nick Fuentes, Katie Hopkins, as well. Was that something that was how did you feel? Was that something weird for you? Because I knew you were obviously going to get heat for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually funny because you being our first guest, that was my first like live, well, actually, no, that's a lie. I've done live TV actually quite a bit in Australia, so that wasn't that odd, but it was always on panels and you were supposed to just like argue with people.
Yeah.
But having you in studio, I was like actually so nervous because I was like, oh my God, it's the first thing, we're all kicking off.
Sure.
And I knew that it was, so that was quite funny, just having you there, me being like, bah! But having Nick Fuentes on, the thing is, and I don't know if people agree with this general stance, but my concept towards humans that I don't agree with is I don't think we shun bad ideas. I think it's actually better to bring them out in the open where they can be battered if they're a bad idea. Because if they're not, they'll stand the test and they'll be able to basically withhold whatever, criticism and barrage comes their way. But if they're really a bad idea, shining a light on how bad they are, I think is the way of defeating them, because you basically defeat bad ideas with better ideas. That's my general view. So I know that people like to shun certain people that they think their ideas are abhorrent. And to be clear, I think a lot of what Nick Fuentes said, for example, is abhorrent. And I wouldn't want him instituting any of that in any country. But I thought it was important to at least like ask some questions. What I didn't like are the audiences that are so aggressive that are like, we're going to attack the shit out of you because you said something or asked a question of somebody that we admire that they either didn't answer in a way that they liked or whatever the case is. I don't like that. And I don't like any situation that inevitably leads to sexism. That annoys the crap out of me. So yeah, I mean, no,
okay, calm down, Toots. You're hysterical. Let's just calm down.
I'm just a woman. I'll go in the kitchen now. But yeah, it bothers me that people make criticism all about sex in those situations rather than the ideas that I'm saying back or whatever the case is. Katie Hopkins was hilarious. I loved having her on. So I have no problem having on or talking to controversial people, provided that I can actually talk to them.
Well, so did you get the thing that happens is people like Katie and Nick, they have very passionate audiences.
Yeah.
So did you get more pushback from their audiences or more pushback from their haters?
Probably the audiences. Katie's, I don't think I noticed any sort of pushback from anybody on Katie. I just think people just across the board pretty much really enjoyed that. What I noticed after the Nick Fuentes thing, for example, was a lot of the women are ridiculous. Like look at this woman going head to head, or head to head. I was just asking simple questions. I don't think I was being particularly antagonistic. And then the fact that one clip everybody was sharing on both sides to the what are they called? What is it? SPLC? It's the Southern
Poverty Law Center. Yeah.
One of their people shared a clip of me and him, and they were like, "Ha ha ha, Nick Fuentes! Like, look what a dum dum." And then on the other side, Nick Fuentes' people were sharing it, being like, "Ha ha ha! Look, the stupid woman is being a rib," or whatever the argument is that they always say.
A rib?
Yeah, they to be derogatory towards women, they call you a rib, the rib, because women come from, in their view, the rib of Adam. That's how women were made.
That's kind of funny. You don't think that's clever?
I think it's hilarious, but I'm just like, because that's how they refer to you exclusively, is as the rib, and I just go, okay, cool.
That's not how they refer to you exclusively. So one of the things I think
that's true.
One of the things I think lefties get right, and I think one of the issues with having a bipolar or polarized electorate or conversation is that inherently, if someone on the left says something that people on the right, like, you're full of crap, doesn't happen. And I do think they absolutely have a point that men and women are criticized differently on social media. You're going to get, not only you're going to get more heat than I will, you're also going to get more personal heat. And it's going to be more virulent than I would get.
So something that I'm not, and I'll try to word this in a gentle way. I agree with you. I think that the criticism that women and men get are vastly different. And I think that in some cases, women and men get away with much, much different things.
Yeah.
I think that is a fact. Do you remember that? I don't know actually how much you interact with the sort of gaming world at all, but this woman called Frosk from G4 TV, I think it's like a gaming channel. She had this big rant that went viral on Twitter, particularly, and on YouTube and whatnot, about how, men are voyeurs and this, that, and the other. And a lot of what she said was garbage, but some of it was true, where she said that people come in the comments and are exceedingly horrible to the female hosts.
Yeah.
Now, that might be because the female hosts are actually horrible. That could be the case.
Sure.
Or it could be because they're just female. And so I think that something that I've realized dealing with these like actual sexist, misogynistic little groups of people is that sometimes the criticism levied towards you, and oftentimes I would say from these groups, it's just because you happen to have a vagina. And I just think, like, how lowbrow is it that you can't even criticize the ideas? You're just criticizing the person by virtue of the fact that they have the wrong chromosomes.
Guys, we got a different kind of sponsor for this episode. It's the Jordan Harbinger Show. It's a podcast you should really be listening to. Every day, someone tells you just have to listen to some podcast, and you nod and say, sure, you don't listen to it. Don't let that happen here. Jordan's Show, which Apple named one of its best of 2018, is aimed at making you a better informed, more critical thinker so you could get a sense of how the world actually works and come to your own conclusions about what's happening, even inside your own brain. Because each episode is a convo with a different fascinating guest. And when I say this something for everyone here, I mean that. One episode, he's talking to a hostage negotiator from the FBI. Another episode, it's a cinematographer who discovered a lost city in the jungle. Jordan's always focusing on pulling useful, practical insights from his brilliant guests. Not talking about pop psychology or some self-help stuff. The episodes are loaded with bits of wisdom you can use to change your mind and improve your life right away. And if that's not worth checking out, I'm not sure what is. I know it isn't, and that's part of the problem. Total waste of time. We really enjoy this show, and we think you will as well. Search for the Jordan Harbinger Show. That's HARB as in boy, IN as in Nancy, GER on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. And the URL is jordanharbingershow.com/subscribe. On Apple Podcasts at jordanharbinger.com/iTunes. And if you want to learn more about Jordan, interesting guy, go to jordanharbinger.com/about. Hey guys, you ever feel like you're being followed around the internet and maybe advertisers know a bit too much about you? So Ipvanish VPN helps you take back your privacy and helps you become anonymous on the internet. So it's a virtual private network, a VPN for short, which is a tool that helps you browse the internet. You can use Ipvanish on your computer, tablet, phone, Fire Stick when you stream media. When you use a VPN, all your data is encrypted. What you're reading, what you're watching, what you're searching, whatever it is you're doing. And it's important because what you're doing on the internet isn't anyone's business but yours. Ipvanish is offering for listeners of the show 65% off their annual plan. It's only $375 a month to protect yourself. Super easy to use, even for you boomers. You turn it on with one click, and it runs in the background to protect you while you're browsing the web. If you run into a problem, Ipvanish has 24/7 support by email, chat, and phone. All you got to do is go to ipvanish.com/malice. Use promo code malice, MALICE. You get 65% off. Their annual plan is just $44.99 for a year with our discount. This is the time to sign up. Ipvanish is the best. They've got 4.7 out of 5 on Trustpilot with more than 6,000 reviews. All you got to remember is ipvanish.com/malice to get the deal and start protecting your data online. Let's get back to the show. It was funny because I was opening for Dave Rubin in Atlanta last week. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about Ketanji Brown Jackson and how she was asked during her Supreme Court hearings, like, what is a woman? And she had said, I'm not a biologist. And Rubin's like, look, is it that hard to just say someone has a vagina? Just say vagina. It's a person with a vagina. Just say vagina. And then when I came out for Q&A, I told the audience, you guys should all be happy. This is the one time in your life you'll hear Dave Rubin discussing vagina.
Poor Dave. How was that? How did it go?
It was really, really great. He told me I can say whatever I want in the intro. And I went over what I said and he goes, go for it. And I told the audience, he had a list of like rules. So I'm like, let me read it. So it was like no flash photography, no whatever, no filming. But then I told the audience that everyone there per Dave's request needs to get circumcised, men and especially women. So we will have a mohel at that side of the stage after the show and some with bolt cutters on that stage after.
Oh my God.
And Dave was fine with that. So but I think, just circling back to what we just said, to quote Jen Psaki, I think that there is a very thick line between joking around about gender or things like that and actually being disrespectful. And a lot of times people will try to play like, oh, I'm just kidding. But it's just like, you're not. You're just using humorous language to just be, virulent and aggressive.
Yep. Yeah, no, yes, 100%. I mean, I don't want to, belabor the point too much about the female thing, but it's been really interesting because leading up to maybe the last little while, I have never viewed myself through the lens of being a female. Like, I am a female. I love being a female. It's awesome. But I also just, I've never gone through life being like, oh, I'm a woman, treat me special. It's nothing like that. And so in the last little while, being exposed to some things that haven't been my favorite, I'm like, oh crap, like people actually view the world through the lens of male and female, and then direct all their ire towards you predicated entirely on the fact that, like I said, you have the wrong chromosome. So yes, I think what you're saying is right, and I can't believe Jen Psaki said that. That's so funny, because I agree.
No, she said, I just meant circle back was her line.
Oh,
yeah,
I thought you were saying the thick line between
no,
legitimate.
That was all.
Okay. So I agree with you then, not Jen Psaki. She can eat a bag of dirt. No, you're 100% right. And you know what I think the problem is too? It's quite funny. Whenever you try to talk about the female thing, particularly in the right wing, people get so aggressive, and it always becomes oh, you're a feminist now. And it's like, no, I think that we're allowed to promote the respect of females, because think about it, women literally birth you. Like, women are so cool and so neat, and they do this amazing thing, and they have this ability to do all these amazing things. And I just don't understand why we blame females for so much. That's why this whole like repeal the 19th thing that people go on with kind of irritates me like a lot.
So why does it irritate you so much?
Because I think it's lowbrow, and I think I don't think a lot of people have thought it through. I think it's a reactive thing that they say simply because they want to be antagonistic, or because they want to put solely on the shoulders of women all the blame for, the Democrats being in office. But I always think to myself, who's reaching out to the women to try to sway them towards, more quote unquote right-wing viewpoints? Like, who's doing that? If your response to the situation is to always be like, oh, well, put women, further away from us, let's push them to the edge of the cliff simply because they, are more empathetic, or they're more nurturing, whatever the case is. I don't see how that's helpful. How is that helpful?
Well, I think their argument is, if in like 2016, at least, like if only males voted, wouldn't Trump have won like 49 states? So I think they're just
I understand.
Yeah, they're just doing, how the Democrats, there's this argument like we need more immigrants. It's not because they care about immigrants, it's that they want those voters, and you can't blame them. If you have a system where whoever has the most votes in the right states wins, you want to finagle the system so that you have the output you like. So I think it's kind of in their head, but also kind of, I think it's a confession of impotence, in that they're like, I have no idea how to persuade women of anything. So instead of trying to persuade them, or maybe they're inherently unpersuadable because their values are different than mine, let's just knock them out of the equation, and I'm going to get the result I want.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's at least in part what some people are doing when they talk about and approach this issue. And I get why. I understand how it's easier to be like, oh, let's just not have this voting block vote at all because they vote the wrong way, and I don't like that. I guess just being a female and sort of now being exposed to this, or at least having my eyes open to how often it goes on, I'm just like, I get it. Women and men are different, and maybe it can't be fixed. Maybe women will always, in some sense, lean to the left. But I do think that no one's really reaching out, the olive branch to be like, hey, ladies, like, how can we make this make sense to you? And how can we make it matter to you in a way that gets the results that we want? I don't think, again, it's like my views about like bringing things into the light, so that you can look at it better and assess it and then go, is this good or bad? It's kind of the same thing, where it's like, if you reach out to women and you really take a hard look at it and you go, how can we adjust this? I think that ultimately that would be in the best interest of everybody. Women aren't inherently left-wing because, they're shitty people that want to destroy the country. It's because I don't think that people are messaging, or at least, maybe politicians aren't messaging things to them in the way that makes sense to them. And I think that actually a lot of women are one-issue voters. Maybe you know that better than I would, but I'm pretty sure they are one-issue voters.
What issue? What issue would that be?
I think abortion's a really big part of it. I believe I got lectured by a lefty in DC once. He was telling me that Hillary would have won if women weren't one-issue voters, and I think that the abortion thing was a big one.
But that election was so razor thin. There were probably 100. If you switched 100 different levers, you would have different results.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's probably true as well. That's just what she was saying to me as she lectured me aggressively. But yeah, I think most most women at least care about one thing, and that's what takes them to the polls. Although I know that the abortion thing is certainly one of them. I couldn't actually list another one for you.
I would probably also guess that women tend to be more conciliatory and team oriented than males are.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
certainly in our corporate media culture, that implies, you were told explicitly in 2016, if you are remotely decent, you're voting for Hillary. And they said every CEO, all these organizations have never endorsed anyone. They endorsed her, every senator, like no one respected Boris Trump. This is just, there's not even a question. So I think, to stand out from that pack, that's much more of a male thing to do than a female thing.
Well, aren't women inherently, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, if you know, aren't women just more agreeable as a general rule?
Right. I think that like those metrics where, agreeableness, disagreeableness, all these different metrics, women tend to be more agreeable than males are. And certainly online, you're going to see that very disproportionately in terms of trolling, both in the good sense and the bad sense, they're going to be male.
Yeah. I think that certainly the issue of women, it's just, I find all of this very interesting. Something that occurred to me recently was that a lot of men, particularly those who have women, wives who stay at home and raise babies and whatnot, I was thinking to myself, so you're fine to have the woman raise your child and impart on your child not your values, but her values.
Yeah.
It's okay for that to happen, but then she can't take those values and vote.
Yeah, sounds great.
Yeah. Do you get what I'm saying? I just,
of course,
the more I think
it's
about
like you can raise your kid, but you can't like choose your representative, right? Like, which is more important? Yeah.
Yeah. So I find that really interesting too. Yeah. I don't want anybody to listen to this, or certainly don't want you to listen to this and think Sydney's gone off the deep end, she's become a Looney Tune. But it's more that the more I look at this and the more I think about it, coming from the men's rights space, where I fight tooth and nail to make sure that men are represented, to make sure their values are heard, their views are heard, that they are actually treated as people, because I think a lot of the time we don't do that. I want that for women as well. I don't just want that for one sex over the other. That's unhelpful.
So were you always like right of center, or was there some kind of big epiphany moment where you're like, oh, holy crap, I've been lied to all my life?
No, I've always been somewhere on the right wing. My parents are business people. My dad has, I think 100 employees. So he's very much about he's very much about how do I keep everybody employed? How do I keep my business going? And my mom is just this crazy American lady. So
how was it hard for them are you the only kid?
Actually, I'm one of 6 technically.
Oh, so they don't care that you left Australia. Good.
Yeah,
now we can keep track of the others. Okay.
They're like, wow, this is one less one that we have to sometimes pay for things for. Yes. I'm the baby though of 6. Yeah. Okay. That's probably why I get these angry messages from my mom, like, you better come home. She said to me, actually, she said, you're going to meet a nice American boy and fall in love, and the cycle is going to repeat itself, but in reverse, because she met my dad and then moved to Australia, and I'm going to meet a nice American boy and then live here forever. That's her concern. But she'll have cute babies though.
Yeah, of course. And yeah. Hey guys, I am very, very fortunate that I still have my hair, but 2 out of 3 men will experience some form of hair loss by the time they're 35. More than 50 million men suffer from male pattern baldness, and Keeps is here to stop that issue. There's only 2 FDA approved medications that can prevent hair loss, and Keeps offers them both. So what's Keeps? It's a convenient virtual doctor consultation. Medications delivered straight to your door every 3 months. You don't have to leave your house, which I certainly don't like to do. 24/7 care and support. They've got a network of expert medical advisors, and it has a low cost. Treatments start at just $10 a month, and Keeps offers generic versions of the 2 FDA-approved medications to prevent hair loss. Keeps has everything your hair needs, delivered straight to your door, discreet packaging, and proven results. Remember, prevention is key. Treatments can take up to 4 to 6 months to see results, so act fast when it comes to your hair. Save more, spend less. If you're ready to take action and prevent hair loss, go to keeps.com/welcome to receive your first month of treatment for free. That's keeps.com/welcome to get your first month free. keeps.com/welcome. Keeps lets you keep your hair. Hey guys, Your Welcome is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Whether you love true crime or comedy, celebrity interviews, news, or even motivational speakers, you call the shots on whatever's in your podcast queue, right? And guess what? Now you can call the shots on your auto insurance too. Enter the Name Your Price tool from Progressive. The Name Your Price tool puts you in charge of your auto insurance by working just the way it sounds. You tell Progressive how much you want to pay for car insurance, then they'll show you a variety of coverages that fit within your budget, giving you options. Now that's something you'll want to press play on. It's easy to start a quote, and you'll be able to choose the best option for you fast. It's just one of the many ways you can save with Progressive Insurance. Quote today at progressive.com to try the Name Your Price tool for yourself and join the over 27 million drivers who trust Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates, price and coverage match limited by state law. Let's get back to the show. What have you ever, I'm sure you get a lot of emails and notes, whatever, from other young women who you allow them to kind of feel seen, because if you're going to be young and like either right of center, Republican, conservative, want to call it, especially on college campuses, you're going to be looked at either as a freak or a religious loon. Like how do you, what kind of advice do you give them to kind of make them feel not so crazy?
That is a fantastic question. And it is very isolating at university, especially when you are the only person that you feel thinks the way that you think. It sucks. Been there. You've got degrees, don't you?
I have a business degree, from Bucknell. I
don't know if is it I can't speak English. Is it quite as aggressive towards men as it is towards women at the university level with expressing right-wing opinions? I'm thinking it would be worse.
I don't know if I would call it particularly right-wing opinions, but I certainly was a difficult, very aggressive student. And it was very, very isolated.
You aggressive?
But Bucknell was it was a country club school. I'd never been around white people in my life coming from Brooklyn before. Like waspy white, like no sense of irony.
People who wear loafers. Yeah.
What's that?
People who wear loafers.
Yeah. This is what your wife looks like. This is the music you listen to. This is what your house looks like. Like everyone dressed the same. They're all J. Crew, LL Bean, that stuff. So it was very hard in that regard. But I think it would have been much harder if I was a female, because they would have been able to be much more aggressive. And I think also there's something you said for the physical, because if you're like cornering a dude and yelling at him, it's one thing. But I think when a female is physically cornered and yelled at, it has a very different dynamic and a much more disturbing one, even though the person yelling might not be thinking of this and there's no possibility of anything happening, it still has a different feel.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. University is such an odd place, because even back when I was at school, which was, I don't know, like maybe 7 years ago now. How old am I? Old enough, yeah, probably 7 years ago. I try to keep my age a secret, but I think everybody knows now. Although the internet thinks I'm in my 30s, which is wrong.
Aren't you 40? Wait, aren't you Taylor Lorenz? Aren't you 49?
Did you not know? I'm actually turning 50 this year. It's the big 50. University was crap when I was there, just because I did my undergraduate was in criminology, which is social sciences, which means that everybody's a crazy person. And then my second degree, my master, is in journalism, so everybody equally crazy. And I think my advice, particularly to women, which I think I don't know if it's harder for men or women, I can't say, because I didn't go to university as a dude and get screamed at in classes as a man, but my advice is always, and has always been, you've got two options. If you just want to coast and you want to get through it, and you just want to get to the bloody end and get your, expensive receipt piece of paper, then keep quiet, do nothing, say nothing, just play the game, if that's really what you want to do. But then on the other hand, and I just got to this point where I just was like, I don't care anymore. I'm going to say what I have to say. I'm going to do what I want to do. And if anybody has a problem with it, will come at me. But that's also because I think I'm an aggressive person. So that's the other road you can take, is you can just be out loud and proud about your views. And if anybody has a damn problem with that, we'll let them come at you. And then when they do, and I found this to be very helpful, is use the tactics against them that they employ against you. So they love to say, like, I feel bullied. Well, I had written many an email to a tutor or a professor being like, this person screamed at me in class. I feel uncomfortable and I feel bullied. And then they go, oh shit, because they don't want to get sued, or they don't want whatever issues.
And also because it's in writing.
Yes, exactly. Yep. So if you are going to be out loud and proud, use all of their tactics against them. When they make you feel like crap about yourself, you're probably tough and you're not going to go home and cry about it. But if they have created this environment where you can protect yourself by being a bit of a victim, be the victim. That's such shitty advice, but I feel like that's the only way that you can push back. I don't think it's
shitty advice at all. I think it's useful advice, because they're trying to leverage their power, using the word broadly, to over you. So if you have power, you might as well use it. That's been given to you. You might as well use it as well. I think there's a lot of talk on internet circles about kind of standing up and presenting your own views. There's a time and place for that. I also think it's underrated how important it is for young people to learn how to pass, especially like in a corporate America, because you're going to have that lady from HR, and it's basically her job to make sure she's putting forth that ideology throughout the company. And most people are going to be oblivious. So if you're going to argue with her and she's going to come off or be perceived as the voice of reason, now you're the problem. So it's a really useful technique to figure out like, okay, what can I get away with? What can't I get away with? What are the benefits of me speaking up? At the end of the day, if you're working in a company and the company's going in some kind of Maoist crazy direction, it's not your company. If the company thrives, you're not going to be more successful. If it goes down, you're not going to be less successful. So there's something to be said for that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that the flying under the radar thing can definitely be an important skill to learn. I think what you're saying is correct to an extent, in the sense that it is important to learn when to be a crazy person about your views and when to just sit back and go, not the fight that I'm willing to take. However, I think I kind of am at the point that if more people were willing to get up and shout about the things that they actually think and not take crap, and if more people did that together, then maybe we would see a change and a shift, particularly in the corporate world. Because it's funny that you bring it up. Someone close to me recently lost their job because they made a comment to a fellow employee that they'd never met before, who happened to be Muslim, and they said to them as they were eating a pork chop, "Wow, that's a big pork chop. I didn't know that you were allowed to eat that. I thought that was banned in Islam." And then this woman went and complained to HR, and this person that I know lost their job because the woman said, "Oh, I felt bullied. I felt uncomfortable." And I said, "Well, is there anything that you could do in reverse to that to sort of, like do your Uno reverse card and say like, well, I feel bullied or attacked or whatever it is?" Because that's the other thing that I actually tell my followers is, play the game. If people are going to complain to HR, well, you complain back and say that you also felt bullied or intimidated or whatever it is. Protect yourself with the measures that are in place. And so this person said, "No, I'm a straight white Christian male. What the hell do you think I can do?" And I was like,
"No,
what
you
can you do?
You can say you found a bomb in her office."
It's going to detonate. It had my name on it.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure this person is the one who sent anthrax to the New York Times. That is really kind of obscene. Because I'm Jewish, I don't keep kosher, but people ask me all the time, "Oh, can you have shrimp? Can you have pork? Blah, blah, blah." It's really kind of funny because I've had Nazis come at me on Twitter and they'd be like, "Haha, bacon." And it's like, I was a member of the Bacon of the Month Club. I have the card on my fridge laminated. It's like my favorite food. So it's not like saying the word garlic to a vampire is going to make the vampire care. It's just really, really weird sometimes engaging with these types, but I guess it comes with the territory.
So you wouldn't get somebody fired because they say, "Hey, do you have 2 different kinds of plates in your house?" Like
I would if I hated them, but that's the thing. We don't know that this woman actually was offended so much as she hated him, and now she had that's the thing people don't see. This is something people don't realize about cancel culture in general. A lot of times when people are fired or canceled, this just gives the person or the organization a cover to get rid of someone they hated to begin with. A very easy example of this was Judith Regan, who was like one of the most powerful publishers who ever lived, just an amazing person. And I've been whenever I'm like in a makeup chair at a company, I'm always like, okay, who's the biggest asshole here? And 2 makeup ladies from different news companies said Judith Regan, which for that name, that's not a common name. So she had published OJ's book, If I Did It, which was kind of OJ's confession. They're like, "Oh, this is shocking. They fired her." They didn't fire her because of the book. They fired her because everyone hated her and she was a loon. Like but that was like the cover story. So a lot of times, people who get canceled or who get run out of jobs, it's not because he asked this about the pork chop. It's because, oh, okay, good. Now now that person can't sue for wrongful dismissal because that's a radioactive way to sue them, to get rid of them.
Well, 100%. And I think that was certainly part of it too, is I think the HR woman at his job really was not a huge fan. And he was saying to me that even when he initially got brought in, she was talking about the white male privilege thing. And I was like, "Are these words that actually weren't spoken to you?" And he said, "Yes." He said, and I can, because he's conservative, he reacted probably in a way that, didn't help his situation by saying like, "I just feel like this is just absurd. Like, what is happening right now? You're coming at me over a pork chop. Really? A pork chop?"
And he was right. They can't eat pork chops. It's haram.
Exactly. I mean, pork is like the big no-no in the religion. It's anyway. So I found that really interesting. And then and that made me irate. If I'm being honest, I was like irate when I heard this. I thought this is so ridiculous because we structured an environment basically around the feelings of others, which is not helpful as a general rule. But I thought to myself, how many men every single day, maybe not every day, maybe just in a year, get fired under similar circumstances for just absurd reasons, because somebody felt uncomfortable, because they asked about something innocuous, or because they were at, a work event and they made a comment in passing that just didn't mean anything, but that person took it to be offensive or horrible or rude. And then they go into HR and they moan and groan until that person loses their job. Especially if someone's got a family or they have children or whatever, and they're supporting all these people. I just go, how? And how do they fight back? That's the other question.
But that's the other thing is, like, we would think that this happens regularly, but we don't know that. Mm-hmm. I don't know that this is something that happens with great regularity. Mm-hmm. I know that, like, to fire someone is a big headache in corporate America. You need to have a paper trail. Usually you have a warning, a verbal warning, then a written warning, whatever. So I think in most cases, at the very least, they either send this person sensitivity training or they sit them down having talking to. I think firing for one comment is not the norm at all.
Well, I think in Texas, because this is a fire at will or at will fire, I don't know what the wording is, but basically you can fire anybody for whatever reason that you want, and you don't actually really have to have a paper trail, I believe. Although I know that he actually in this case did have paperwork for it. They made him sign a little bit of paper for it. But yeah, in Texas, you can just fire people for whatever reason. But you would think that because it's Texas, that this would happen less frequently, just given the, political stances of a lot of people here. But maybe corporate world is the same no matter where you are. Who's to say?
Yeah. This is Walk-Ins Welcome with Bridget Pedicy.
I love hearing people's stories of resilience and grit. This is why I created this podcast.
We are very excited to welcome Jim Gaffigan, Yasmin Mohammed, Glenn Beck, Tim Dillon, Abigail Schreier, Jeff Garland, Ayan Hirsi Ali, Sam Harris, Heather Hying, Jonah Goldberg, Ben Shapiro, Glenn Greenwald, Sarah Shahi, Colin Quinn.
If there's a culture of victimhood, then let's tell stories of grit and survival.
Subscribe and listen now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Let's get back to the show. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts as to what is going on with Elon Musk and him taking over Twitter. I know you're a Twitter junkie as much as I am in many ways. So, okay, are you just sitting there like chortling and just like eating the popcorn?
Yeah. No, it's been it's okay. I'll start by saying this. I don't know how I feel about Elon Musk as a general rule.
Sure.
And I also am not super familiar with his origins. I know a little bit about his interactions with China and some of the bizarre things that he's done in the past and whatnot. I know about his, chip in the head thing. And I know a little bit about it. My mom, who is a political junkie and very much loves conspiracies and whatnot, she sends me crap all the time. Look at this. So I've been getting a lot of Elon Musk stuff. That's why I'm chuckling and she'll bring it up, because I've been getting so much stuff from her lately. I think it's really interesting that he's bought Twitter, but I don't necessarily think that's going to be the solution to the problem, because you would have to ask the question, does this mean, is it better to have the devil or is it better to have a bunch of random people owning Twitter who would inevitably will probably make some similar decisions? Because who's to say that Elon Musk will be able to resist whatever other entities and people want to have their fingers in this pie?
Sure.
I guess that's my question. Can he resist? If so, what are the costs? Because, I mean, in the political world, and you very well know this, I know that you do, there's so many players and so many people who will come at you for doing and saying the wrong things. Sure. And on his level, playing with that much money, you are probably dealing with some bad cats. So I just wonder, I have a lot of questions about how this goes. But I don't think he's a good guy. Do you think he's a good guy? I don't think that he's conservative.
Well, I'm not a conservative. I think he's a useful guy. And I think he was just tweeting this morning about Matt Lauer's rape office. So I think someone who's matter-of-factly bringing out like their worst bag, that this is a thing that drives me crazy about corporate journalists. Like, for you to be sanctimonious and wagging your finger at me, like places like The Atlantic and The Nation, you guys got us into World War I. And like you've been at this for 100 years, making the wrong call, costing hundreds of thousands of lives needlessly. So if you're going to sit here wagging your finger on me, you got to keep your side of the street clean. So again, when you have like MSNBC, there was this panel, and Molly Jung Fast and all the usual like malevolent actors just complaining about Elon. It's just like you're not. You wanted boots on the ground in Ukraine, you want boots on the ground in Afghanistan, you want boots on the ground in Syria, which means dead American soldiers. And you've had no accountability for this. So if you're advocating for like death, I'm not really thinking you're a good person, especially when you weren't like, you know what, I screwed this up royally. This was a bad call. And I've changed my thinking, in X, Y, and Z, I think you guys say.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, do we say Z? Yeah, I guess Aussies do. I think I say Z.
Okay.
Do Americans say H or H? Which one?
H. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K.
I think Aussie. I see. I don't remember things now. I think we say H.
Okay.
You have to acclimate. So you have to like be a little bit of a chameleon when you move to a new country, and you have to adopt all the language and adopt all the bizarre way of saying things because no one knows what the hell you're talking about otherwise. And so then all your language just becomes this like modeled, disgusting mess of like American and Australian, and you're like, I don't even know what I'm saying.
What food do you miss the most from back home?
Okay, Michael, if you ever go to Australia, you must try and just go to a Bunnings, which is like Home Depot, and you have to go in the summertime when they're having a sausage sizzle, and you have to get these like revolting $2 sausages that are in this like piece of like gross white bread with like cooked onions on it and then ketchup or tomato sauce, which is infinitely sweeter than ketchup. And you will eat it and you will love it and you will tell me about it. That's what I miss.
That sounds like diarrhea.
It's not though. It's not like eating a Hot Pocket. It's like an elevated Hot Pocket.
Okay.
It's a great Australian pastime. I miss sausage sizzles.
Wait. I'm sorry. Okay. I know you guys have like backwards toilet flushing. Wait, you're telling me that the go-to place in Australia is to go to your Home Depot and get their sausages, but only during the summer, which is our winter? Is that?
Yeah. I miss going to Bunnings warehouse and just, waddling around.
Why are these sausages only available at the Home Depot?
So basically what happens is these little scout groups go to Bunnings and they set up their little tent. It's like this little tent always has, I'm pretty sure it has like a green top to it. And they stand in there with their little grill. And
like Boy Scouts or like adults?
Oh, sometimes there are adults there.
Okay.
But often there's like a couple kids, but not like kids, maybe like, I don't know, 14-year-olds.
Okay.
And then like 3 adults. Sometimes it's not even kids. Sometimes it's just adults. And then they just give you your sausage. But you buy multiple and then you have to hold them like in your fingers like a weirdo. Oh my God.
Well, why are you buying multiple? Why can't you just go back and get the second one when you're done eating the first one?
Because you want to hold them while you're walking around Bunnings. You want to hold them while you're walking around Home Depot.
Well, that seems to be counterproductive in terms of getting my lumber.
It is, but you eat them and then you go buy your lumber. While you're walking to the lumber, you eat it.
So you guys have Christmas in December also, but it's warm?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So is Santa Claus like in a bikini? Like what is going on there?
Yeah, often they'll, if it's like an Aussie Christmas thing, often Santa Claus is in board shorts and maybe like a tank top, which we call a singlet.
Like seriously?
Yes. Yeah. Look up when we're done here, look up Aussie Christmas Santa, and it'll usually be him in flip flops, which we call thongs, in board shorts, and a tank top, which again we call singlets.
Okay.
Yeah. With sunnies on and some sunburn.
And New Year's is always warm.
Yes, which is lovely.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. Because then you could stay up all night. Who cares? It's warm weather.
Yep. And the sun doesn't go down until quite late. And you sit out and you drink a beer watching all the fireworks. It's really nice. Honestly,
okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, honestly, like if I could pick to have a cold Christmas and a hot New Year, I would do that. It's awesome.
What's up with the musk candy?
Oh, the musk sticks.
Yeah.
The pink things.
Yeah.
They're delicious. I don't know.
Explain that to people here because they don't believe me.
I don't even know how to describe them. They taste like chalk a little bit. Well,
they taste like perfume.
The consistency is a bit like chalk, I suppose, like bendy chalk. Does that make sense? Bendy chalk. And I suppose they do taste a bit like perfume though. Have you only had the pink ones though? Because there's white ones as well. Okay. The white ones are okay. I don't think they taste like perfume.
Because I have framed in my house 2 3 Australian candy wrappers. They just came out with Mentos Circus flavor, which is perfect because we live in clown world. But they also had lifesavers. The flavors were thirst and musk.
Yes.
And I tried them. I had someone send them from Australia. I'm like, this is horror. It's like eating deodorant.
Oh, but you must get someone to send you. There's a couple of things. You need Fizzos, which are so yummy. They're like these little fizzy. I don't even know how to describe them.
Are they like Pop Rocks?
No, they're bizarre. I don't know. You know what? I'll get you some Australian chocolates and things, and when I come to visit, I'll bring them to you so you can try them. But musk sticks are very strange. That's so random that you bring that up because I haven't even thought about them in ages. You know what? You probably would like is a curly whirly. They're quite good.
How dare you? How dare you, sir?
They're these like little like demented looking long chocolates that are, well, they're not even chocolate. They're almost like toffee covered in chocolate.
Okay.
They're quite yummy. I'm actually trying to think of some absurd. We have some really weird crap back home.
Are the koalas doing better? Because people don't know the koalas were all giving each other cancer through chlamydia, excuse me, and they're all pissing themselves to death.
Yes, and also falling out of trees. Yes. No, I believe they all still have chlamydia. Yes, koala chlamydia is quite the issue.
No, because it's killing them. It's not.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
I know. No, people don't believe that. I was actually I was actually having lunch with Savannah Hernandez the other day, and we were chatting back and forth. And the gentleman sitting to my side, to my right, he goes, "Oh, are you Australian?" I said, "Yeah." And then he starts talking to us, and he's like, "Yeah, so I have a couple questions. Like, you know, are the spiders really that big?" Which is my favorite thing to be asked. And I'm always like, "Yes, they are large. They are very large, but not poisonous generally, unless you're." And they're shoving your hand into like a huntsman's, well, not even a huntsman, sorry, like a red, I can't even think of the names of them now. I can see no, we don't have them. We've got, they're a little black guy with like a little red thing on his back.
The Black Widow?
No. It'll come to me. Anyway,
okay.
So he's asking me about bloody spiders. And then he's like, "Oh, do you guys see, do kangaroos just hop around like deer run around?" And I was like, "Yes." And then I said, but kangaroos are not as cute as everybody seems to think they are. Like, they're adorable to look at, but they will lure your dog into water and then drown them.
Oh my God.
They are creepy with their little hands, but don't chase them because then they'll, they often die of.
Why are they killing the dogs?
Lactic acid. Well, because if they feel threatened or attacked, they will lure animals into water and then drown.
They probably think the dog's like a dingo, which is their predator.
Yeah, probably.
Which makes it, okay. Sid, we're running out of time. What has been your favorite part of this interview?
Just generally talking to you, honestly. This has been really nice because I feel like you were someone who I always knew was around and knew, and I know people, it's so funny. So many people that I know love you. And it's been very nice getting to know you. Probably talking about your non-interest in musk sticks. That was very fun for me to remember musk sticks. And I'm going to just send you a bunch now.
You are welcome.
Stream the biggest movies and TV shows for free on Pluto TV. Watch movies like Titanic and G.I. Joe: The Rise of Cobra, plus TV shows like CSI and Star Trek: The Next Generation. Starting this month, check out the 24/7 Stargate channel exclusively on Pluto TV. Plus hundreds of channels and thousands of movies and TV shows absolutely free. Download the free Pluto TV app on your favorite streaming device and start watching today.